and my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse how the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes.
Hey everybody, it's Kevin here from BSD. Happy to be joined again by Mike Loftus and Bill Burt. Talking some Bruins moves just at the trade deadline, the free agency opening up. Guys, when we talked last time, we thought it wouldn't be a big splash that the Bruins made. In fact, other than the goalie, I think it's a lot of backfill, a lot of roster fill. Is there any move that stands out to either one of you? And I'll start with you first, Mike.
Well, the goaltending move stands out. I mean, I think we all kind of predicted, or at least I was sort of hopeful that they were not going to go into the season with two rookie goalies, and was really expecting more of like a Yaroslav Halak kind of a thing, a guy that you could, come in and have mentor a, young goalie or two for a year, maybe two. So I didn't expect, Linus Ullmark and a long commitment. I think it's based on really, the fact that we just don't know how Rask will come off this surgery and how he's going to feel when he comes off about playing again. His time was going to be short anyway when he comes back. So I think this is a pretty good move.
Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, that move caught me way off guard. It was, I was telling you that Swayman was the next Frank Brimzik, so this is basically saying I don't know what this means. The end for Rask. I don't see how where Rask ever fits in here unless Swayman doesn't cut it. And then, which could happen, I guess. But this is look. I'm just going to talk overall. It reminds me a little bit of the Patriots free agency, except they made probably the big splash with the two tight ends. But these guys weren't the best two tight ends in the league. They were the best two available. But They went after a lot of pieces that day. It was like 9 guys, and the receivers were like, really well. So I will say this: Don Sweeney looked very happy talking about this day, and that tells me they got who they wanted. So I can't really define this until a year from now, maybe even sooner. They got the guys they wanted, so they should be pretty good. My point was, and we did talk about this, and I think you agreed, Mike and Kevin, that this is all 2-year deals basically, other than the goalie, and there's a 3-year deal, for the defenseman. For forward, this is what they're doing. They got the window is here. It's 2 years, and they, I think we all look at that. Can they bring in the superstar? Well, no, they did bring in a quote-unquote borderline star, and they just signed him to a 4-year deal. Got to add him to this list too, because he's basically was a free agent. So we're talking Foligno. Look, Foligno was very good. He's a question mark. It's been a few years. He was a big disappointment in Toronto this year, but he sort of fits what he sort of reminds me of a Bruin. This is like the kind of guy the Bruins like. He's a tough, gritty guy. I like him. I've always liked him as a player. Where does he fit? I don't know. But there's and the other side of this is David Krejci. This is basically the end for David Krejci. Just look, they don't have any money really left for him, and so. Where does where does David Krejci, where the Bruins go with? I think David's gone. So I think we're going to see some interesting couple of guys that we were disappointed in last year. It looks like they're going to get a shot, and they're going to get a shot to play. And I think this is what they had to do because they're identifying the window and where it is. I don't say they had to do the goalie, but it's sort of gutsy. And I think they're talking about how important that position is because I think they stole him. I think they stole Allmark. They see him as a star, and hasn't played a lot, but looked pretty good in short time for a team that was not very good. So personally, I don't know enough about this. I'm just telling you, Don Sweeney looked very happy, and I'm going to basically say he got the guys he wanted. So let's see if he gets the results he expects.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the other than the goaltender and the situation with both Rask and with Krejci seemingly gone, I think they're kind of building their roster, if this makes any sense, for a regular season marathon type of thing, but being much more stout when it comes to playoff time. Forbort is a perfect example of that. He is your classic, excuse me, stay-at-home defenseman. He's big. They need that size. I think we all agreed on that as well. So I think he's a key signing, and it's about time that Don Sweeney had a defenseman that's bigger than him. Bill, what do you think about Forbort? Do you know much about him, or do you just size-wise and generalities? What do you think that does to the back end of your defense?
Well, look, they lose Lauzon and Kevin Miller, the stay-at-home guys, and he's a penalty kill guy. That's a big deal. So look, this is not a time to get really excited. But again, they signed. We got to remember Taylor Hall wasn't cheap, and that happened. Since the last time we've been on, his name really should be on this list of free agents because he was a free agent. I think we all felt he was going to sign here. I think we sort of floated. Is he going to do 3 years, $5 million? No, I think Mike, you're right. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some money, and it's 4 years, $24 million, and you know what? He's worth it. And he's probably worth it. Mm-hmm. And I believe, again, Cassidy was very complimentary after the season, even with his disappointment in maybe the last few games of the series with the others, where he said, I really want to have Taylor Hall for a full season. And that's what I look forward to, having this guy. And there's going to be adjustments because Krejci's gone. Krejci and Rask are gone. And we have to decide what's the bigger loss because I believe Rask was going to be gone anyway for most of the season. And Krejci, look, he's getting up there in age. I mean, we forget how long he's actually been with this team. He looked like he was 8 years old in his first Bruins photo that they took of him. So I think that tells you what they think of the goalie position. And, they took a little risk. That's a lot of money for a guy that hasn't proven himself as a number one long term. But I like when you take risks, and it's all short-term risk for the most part. It's 2 years, and Forbort can play. I mean, he's going to be on the team. Is he going to be a top 4 defenseman? I mean, that's I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I think a guy like Forbort basically says Chara has no chance of coming back for one more year. Again, I go back to Don Sweeney looked happy, and that caught me a little off guard. But I think he likes what they did to the team, and there's still going to be a couple holes, but you could say that for every team other than Tampa Bay. So I think we're going to have to let it ride for a little bit. I don't know enough about Hala, and Nosek looks, I remember him, but again, is he more of a fourth line guy? He's a hustler. He can play. He can skate a little bit. Can he score 20 goals? They could use a 20-goal guy. So, and maybe that's Foligno too. So I don't know. I'm interested because again, I not to equate the Patriots here, but I was at Patriots camp the first day, and there's definitely it's the newness of the new guys. There were a bunch of new guys, and you could feel the new flavor of the team. The Brady Patriots are over, and I wrote about that, sir. And I sort of get a feel for. I'm not saying the Bergeron Patriots Bruins are over; they're not over, but it's going to be a lot of this. These are 5 guys. That's a big change to the team. This isn't 2 guys or 1 guy, and so I'm looking forward to see how this thing gels.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we started there with Forbort and Forbort, and
yeah,
he's always been in the West, which is so I can't say I've seen that guy a lot, but you look at his size. Bill brought up the penalty kill, big shot blocker, significant hitter. I don't, and he's going to play, I guess, on the left side. So, I don't, they have people already on the left side, Grzelcyk, and they re-signed Mike Riley. They have their puck movers. I see that as maybe there's a guy to play with McAvoy, and then you can sort out where Grzelcyk goes best, and probably the second pair, maybe with Carlo, and then, Riley and Clifton, you still. So I like the way their defense, shapes up a little bit more. It's still tough to see Lozon go, but I think that was a good move by the Kraken, given the defensemen available. The thing that I kind of keep coming back to is, we've said for so many years, David Krejci is, an underrated and excellent, or most people have said this, second center. When are they going to get him wings? Well, now you have a second wing, Taylor Hall, who has been an MVP in this league. Craig Smith had a good year. So who's going to be their center? Because, I agree, Kev, it doesn't. I don't know that they sign these 3 forwards, all center wings, unless they have some, gut feeling or, unannounced thing that Krejci's decided that he doesn't want to come back, and I like these 3 players, but I like them as wings, I don't, as I was doing a little bit more. I think Foligno is kind of the one that probably is, pegged a little bit more as a center. And I don't know. I think that's 33 years old and really not a good face-off guy. So I don't, the Haula right now, to me, of the acquisitions would be the guy that I would think okay, he's got some speed, a little bit of size, has scored, all right. And he's very, very, very good at face-offs, so maybe there's your second guy. But it's, I think, I don't generally like to hear that by committee thing. When you're talking about the place that you have to fill, the place you really want to fill is a top 6 position, so that I'm very interested to see how that goes. And of course, Studnicka, now he's got 2 years pro. And I'm not saying that, it's time, but, that will solve a lot if he can come in and play with these, on that second line. But I kind of wonder, we've always thought, the Bruins signed this guy. Well, I wonder what this guy on the team thinks about that, and with Hall, I wonder what he's thinking now. I wonder if, he's like, so I don't get to start this contract with Krejci, I don't know. There are a lot of options, but none of them are as good as Krejci. So, see how that goes.
Well, it's funny because you're leading me into my next point. Although I feel like I'm Gary Tangway here out of the 3. I think I should be sitting on New York telephone books or something like that. I'm way down here. But anyway, I think the series of moves, they mean 2 things. I think Krejci's gone. That's what we're all assuming. I think they got to move DeBrusk. if you take a look at Cap Friendly right now, they got about $1 million left. So that gives you 3.75, which is kind of a reserve to have in the background, assuming they don't put anybody on long-term injury or anything like that. But do you guys think, and Billy, I'll start with you. I'm sorry, Mike, I'll start with you. Do you think they actually have a center that can, because I think it's going to be to steal a line from Walpole, Joe Morgan. They're going to find out that, they're not as talented as they think they are when they let that guy go. So your thoughts on anybody that they have, whether it be a signing or whether it be guys coming up that can fill that role as the second line center?
Well, I think, Charlie Coyle's been given that chance before, and I don't think that, I don't think it's been determined really here or in Minnesota, that he is best suited for top 6 minutes. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. I don't recall him getting any kind of a chance with Hall and Smith. But another thing that I think of is, he has played with Hall and maybe with Nosek too. I'm not sure. So you could get some chemistry someplace else. But as far as the center there, again, Foligno, if you look at what they're going to pay him for a couple of years, it seems like they have, pretty high expectations. Now, the Toronto thing, I don't really hold it against anybody if it doesn't work out in Toronto, I mean, I think I don't know. I just, they're always going to be a pain in the neck. They're always going to be, like a team that the Bruins are going to have to beat to get into the playoffs. But I just, I think they got him as much for character as anything else. And, it's not the first time a thing like that hasn't worked. They tried it with Brian Boyle. They've tried it with a lot of guys, Is there a center? The only quote unquote budding center is Stevnica. And, his first year was very, very good. And, I just find it really hard to judge, especially young players, emerging players in this COVID era. That AHL season, playing in a local rink. It's a nice local rink, but, playing in Marlborough, no fans, things like that, that's just weird. I don't know. I feel like, he's got to get a chance at this. And you also mentioned the potential for a trade. I think I really feel like, by signing these 3, they have to be thinking that somebody else has to go. It's too many. Like their top 9 is like 11 players deep now, and Nosek, Nosek also like a really good, I'm sure he's the penalty kill guy, or I would guess, because he's excellent face-off guy, so I think there's another move to be made at some point. And, if you take what they have left on the cap, and if you do trade DeBrusk, you might have Krejci money,
Right.
I mean, I don't throw that out entirely, but when I see them sign so many players, I just feel like, they've decided that they have to identify a number 2 center now, a new one, which is, I would just, it would be, I think it would be sad if Rask goes out like this, guy that's won most, his last 2 games, he was hurt and he just, couldn't perform, and Krejci was fine. And, it's not really the way that you would think guys like this would go out, because they weren't guys who were like hanging on too long. It's not like Chara. And it's, it's a sad way, very, very anticlimactic, I guess you could say, if that's how it works out.
The only thing with Rask and Krejci is I believe they both may have intimated their futures to the Bruins.
Sure.
And it's like the Bruins, they basically said, yeah, I think I want to play. I'm not, and the Bruins said, all right, I believe the respect was given to both those guys.
Okay.
And that they might have said, you know what, Rask I wouldn't be surprised that anything comes out of his mouth, and I mean that positively and negatively. He could say, I'm going to take the year off and think about it. And I mean, to sign Ullmark to 4 years, that's basically telling me Rask is absolutely gone. I'm thinking of all the stopgaps that this represents, all these guys that are coming in. That's not a stopgap. That's what you want to pay a guy. And, Swayman then can come along at his pace. They could even bring it. They could go, Swayman, we want you to play 60 games down in Providence. I don't know if they do that. You want a 23-year-old, which is what it'll be next year, to play. You don't want him to play 22 games. You're paying a guy for $5 million a year. You want him to play, and you're assuming he's going to play. And so I think so. With the way the roster is constituted right now, I'm still have a concern about the defense, and I still have a concern at number 2 center. So, like as someone following the team, I think there's not a definitive answer to both of those, and I'm talking about top-notch defense, tough guys that can move the puck, and a guy that can stay back. Okay, they might have a little of that, but they've got still, there's still some concerns in both those areas. Could Krejci come back? They make a trade, they get $2 million available. That could happen. I just think, and I agree with you. A couple guys have to go, and I'm obviously wouldn't be shocked if DeBrusk is finally let loose here. I personally, I think he's basically what he has said. I remembered all the haters, and I'm going to show them. Well, he should have showed the haters a few months ago. That's when he could have showed them, and there was he had nothing there. And could he rebound? He could, but if you ask me, I think that's plausible. Where he leaves, they open up a little money, and they bring back Krejci for 1 more year. Again, this is the way this team's built. It's built for this. Let's go for it, and let's go for it next year, with a couple of minor holes. So we'll see. I don't. Number 2 center. That's a concern. I don't know if Foligno's trending the opposite way statistically for that position. Could he do it? Yeah, he could do it. I do like Foligno. I think he's a Bruin. I think he fits in. I'm not exactly sure where right now. And Charlie Cole, is he a number 2 center? He didn't show it last year. But remember, Krejci was more of Krejci's always been a setter. And I think it was 8 goals, 36 assists or something, which is, a lot of points, a lot of assists. And he's got Taylor Hall, who's more of a scorer than a setter. So that's what that position probably needs more than any. A guy who's gonna get a lot of assists, because Taylor Hall's got 30 goals in him. It looks like, and gotta find a guy to get him the puck.
And now, just really quick, I didn't mean to say that the Bruins are being disrespectful of Rask and of Krejci. I don't. But it's just, Rask he's a different case. They just know he can't play until sometime in 2022. With Krejci, I'm sure that they would love to have him back and have have it at the right money. But if he can't tell them now, they've got a plan. They can't just wait until camp starts and find out that he's decided whatever it is he's decided. I think the door can be left open for him, but it's there's not that much money on the other side of the door. So if it's a situation where he feels he needs to be paid based on his performance in the past, that might be a tough thing. But I was just trying to say, it's like you kind of you like to see guys who have served really well go out if this is them going out, like just, on a higher note,
Well, that brings us back to the guy that everybody called he was supposed to be the next Bergeron or a mini Bergeron, Studnicka. I mean, he's at the point right now where he's got to show up. 23 years old. He's only got 3 points in the NHL. Obviously, he hasn't played that much, and when he has, it's been a bottom 6 role. Excuse me. But how much I give them the leash in the regular season. I mean, I really kind of write off everything up until Christmas, because the typical Bruins teams, they come out of the gate storming. Then back in the day, they used to go on the road because the circus and the ice capades or whatever. The ice capades didn't stink as much as the circus did. But I mean, I'd give this guy the first 3 months of the season. You're the second line center. I'm going to play every night. You got to prove to me that you can handle the role before you start messing around. That's not really Cassidy's thing. Cassidy likes to juggle. He believes in the pairs and so forth. So what do you think of Studnicka? I mean, is this make or break or cash in on his reputation? What do you guys think? Billy, start with you.
Yeah, I look. He looks talented, gifted. It just doesn't. You can't depend on him. So right. I mean, are you going to depend on him being the replacement? Remember, Krejci is one of the key guys on special teams on the power play. He allows that fourth forward. He moves the puck. Again, I will say this. He's got as good a hands as any player. Top 10 hands that I've ever seen in the NHL. I mean, amazing. And you're going to lose that if he's gone. And so the second line center, not only you're playing the power play, you're playing the second minute of the power play. So you got to be legit. Where Krejci played the first minute with the big fellas. So this is a question mark. So Mike, I agree that. So in looking at the moves they've made. And they're more, I think, depth. We talk about the depth. It's good depth moves, and maybe this is a good playoff. This built for the playoffs, but you got to build towards the playoffs. And I just don't see the production yet, because my biggest fear is this became a one-line team, and then it became a two-line team, and then it went back to a one-line team late in the playoffs. And you can't do that. Looks like the fourth line could be pretty good. I'm not sure exactly who it's going to be, but it's definitely going to have some talent. It's going to have some guys that are getting paid decent amount of money that play two-way, play forward, play wing, play center, play wing if they have to. Got some size, so there's some things to like. And goaltending, this could be. I think it's a risky, brisk move. I like the aggressiveness, but it better work. It's not something I would have done per se, but I think it's thinking outside the box. And they're basically telling you they think this kid is very, very good, and they think this position is of the utmost to winning and competing for a cup. Of course, we all know that, but this is what they did it. They didn't bring in Halak and Swayman where we're flipping coins. Okay, this is like the 14th best goaltending tandem. I think they want the top 5 or 6 goaltending tandem, and those are the kind of teams. You take care of that area first, and then other things develop. You've given up crappy goals. Doesn't matter what your first line does. So Studnicka, I like him, but. If you told second line, I'm not ready for that. I don't think they are either, but maybe that's what they're doing. They're getting 2 or 3 pieces around that position, and they're going to see what happens. And you don't like doing that, but sometimes you got to take a risk.
When it comes to Studnicka, and mostly it's been training camps, some exhibitions. last year he was in the bubble camp and, went to the bubble playoffs. I don't know how much he played. Even though he wasn't like a first round pick, he was their highest pick that year. I mean, he was always selected with the idea this is the kind of kid that has the tools, to be, you draft him with the idea that at some point he's going to be in your top 6. It's like, a year later, or maybe the year that they drafted the kid from Michigan, Beecher, that was already, when they drafted him, that's probably like a bottom 6, third line guy. Not the case with Studnicka. He's very fast. He's got very good hands. What I've seen with him is that his mind doesn't keep up with his body. He's really fast. He's going a million miles an hour, and he just, he doesn't. I don't want to say that it's like he doesn't see the game well, but like a guy like Krejci who's slower, a guy like Bergeron, you're good players. They're always, they may be one place, but their mind is like, a step ahead. And I don't think that's him yet. Now, and the other thing is, when he makes a mistake, he has often compounded it by taking a penalty, loses a puck, hooks the guy, things like that. So you're right. You can't really count on him. I mean, he's not like dependable yet, but he's young. He's like 20, and he's talented. So I do think that with all the moves that they made, they are in a place now where they can, like what Billy said, I think they can afford to give him a shot there on that second line, and see how that works. Give it a good amount of time, and if it doesn't, you've got all these other options to play center. You move them off the wing. It's funny. We have the first line. I think there's tremendous potential for a good third line and a good fourth line. It's that second line, still without the center. It always was. The question was the wings. Now the question is the center. And I think Studnicka, based on their history, what they've thought of him, his history, I think, I think he should get a crack there. I really do. I'd rather see that. And I think, than one of the hybrid guys, going in there. So, I wouldn't be, I would think that that's probably in the Bruins' mind too. You don't want Studnicka to play, third line minutes. You definitely don't want him to play 4 line minutes. You don't want him to, you don't want to move him to wing. He's a center that they did, developed. You look when they drafted him, it was like, Bergeron's getting a little older, Krejci's getting a little older. We do have Coyle, but we've got to start to address this. We've got to start to address this position down the line, and I think he's the kid.
Speaking of the kid, if you notice, I went into full, closer mode. Like the kid did at the All-Star game back in the day, and everybody yelled at him. Anyway, quick little blurb on what do you think if you're Taylor Hall right now? Do you think that they said to him, hey, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a new center next year? I thought for sure when they signed Hall, Krejci was coming in next in probably, a 2-year deal, and then he's off to the Czech Republic. So do you think there's any of that, like buyer's remorse going on? Because he's a sensitive guy. Let's face it, he's had issues in other places. So real quick, Billy, if you're Taylor Hall, are you pissed?
No, it's too early. He signed his. He wanted to be a Bruin. I think he loved the organization, the city, and that stuff takes care of itself usually. Finding that guy, but that'll be on him. And I think he knew coming in. And look, I'm assuming he's Krejci's pretty nice guy. Everyone they golfs with a bunch of guys. I'm assuming he knew what was going on, knew the situation, and they're going to try. I'm assuming that they need a number 2. They need a good player with Hall, and so that's on the Bruins. He wanted to be here. They're going to make a look. As constituted, this team's going to make a run. they got to the final 8. So I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't know. They get enough to beat Tampa? I think they need, a bus accident probably to beat Tampa, like probably most teams. And we're not hoping for a bus accident. We're just joking. But the point is, I think they're going to be very good next year, like they were this year, and be top 3 or 4 points in the East, and now you get those pieces. The depth was not good. They got beat by the Islanders' depth in the end, and in my point, Rasp was not himself. So you fix a couple areas. The first line, I'm assuming, is going to be very good. So I don't know. I go back to Don Sweeney. Just seemed very happy for a guy that picked a lot of guys who most fans don't know, even some writers don't know. And so I'm gonna acquiesce. I'm gonna give to him and say, okay, all right, it's on you. This is, in fact, his job is sort of on the line here.
Right. Exactly.
He's got a 2-year window to make a run at the Cup, and I'm talking a legitimate run. They almost, and they made a good run this year until they ran out of gas. But they need better depth. They need help from the 4th line and the 3rd line. Go back to the Cup run, the 2011. That was a 4-line team. Claude, in fact, loved that 4th line more than the rest of us did. But you know what? It was a mentality, and you need a mentality, and they need that mentality from everyone. Bruins that's one thing they didn't have this year. They didn't really have a mentality. There were 2 lines, sometimes 3 lines, just sort of skating and killing time until you got to a power play. And they're going to be better than that. And I think as constituted, they look better, other than who's going to be that guy next to Hall. So.
What was the question?
I knew you were going to do that.
I took that question and twisted it up. And it's
That's the biggest pretzel I've ever seen. If you're Hall, Mike,
okay.
Any hard feelings?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because it's a 4-year deal, right? It's not like, he knew he was going to be without Krejci at some point. Is it a little bit earlier? Maybe, but again, I think Billy's too. For all we know that Hall was in touch with Krejci. I think Hall probably went into this, his negotiation with the Bruins with his eyes as wide open, and it's definitely like last year he went to Buffalo and it was just like a total roll of the dice. Maybe this will work, and it was just. Just a franchise that, it was in disarray. He doesn't have that here. He might not know exactly who he's going to play with, but he's been around the game. I mean, it's, like whatever year it was that, Bergeron's career almost ended with a concussion. Whoever thought they were going to play the whole year with him got 10 games. So it happens in hockey. You've got to be prepared, to sort of, think and react on your feet. I don't think he'll, create a stir or be a problem over this. It's, there's still a lot of good, players on this team. And, with all these available assets, you would like to think that, there's gonna, there will be a guy that he'll mesh with. So no, I don't believe that there would be any buyer's remorse, I mean, as just for like the general overall picture, I mean, whenever we've talked, I think this, since the end of last season, as it became, you've got, when you had 2 veteran goaltenders, among the best tandems in the league for however many years, and neither one of them are signed, I get the excitement, that Swayman created, but I just felt, you can't go into a season with 2, pretty pure rookie goalies. They're not doing that now. I feel like, Ullmark's numbers really, I tended to not pay attention. I just felt bad for any goaltender that played there, just because of like what was happening with, with the team, the franchise, over this, especially very, very recently, when they clean house, like just when they're starting to, maybe not take a foothold in the standings and things like that, but, coaching changes, management changes, who knows? His numbers, on a team like that are actually, pretty impressive to me. And now he knows he's on a better team. There's better structure. It's a system that's been in place for a while. So the one fear I had if I was going to, would be like they could get off to the most miserable start ever, and they could, with 2 rookie goalies, and find themselves like, with no hope of making it. I don't know that they charge out of the gates like you think, Kev, like they often do, because there's so many new players. That's a lot to to kind of get together and have and hit the ground running. But you've got a camp, you've got your exhibitions. I think and these guys are all kind of veteran pros that they brought in. I think that they'll be able to like stay afloat, and then gradually find out who works best with who and how what the best way to play is. So I'm confident it's still a good division. Tampa Bay lost so much, I mean, they've still got good players left, but they like they had a whole third line wiped out,
Yeah.
So that maybe they come back down to earth a little bit more, but the division's getting a little bit better. Florida's a concern now. Toronto's always going to be a outstanding regular season team, so it's not going to be easy to make the playoffs, I don't think. I think it'll be tight in this division like it always is, but as compared to going in with so many questions marks that there were like 2 weeks ago, I mean, I think this settles things a lot, and Bill, I mean, maybe that's why Don Sweeney's, maybe it's a smile, maybe it's a sigh of relief. He got a lot done.
Well, one other thing is, the right winger on the second line isn't chopped liver. It's Craig Smith or hell, David Pastrnak. I mean, so we're talking a center. Maybe a center could learn and develop, and doesn't have to be great, whatever that means, but can sort of meld into the role of being a number two center with 2 guys that can put the puck in the net. So my point is that it allows a little leeway to not have David Krejci there immediately. And I say David Krejci-like person there. But Krejci will be missed. I mean, you stick Krejci with everyone healthy, with this team as constituted, I'd like my chances, and then you can make a couple moves. Probably, like I said, they have probably two guys they're going to probably have to trade and get something decent back, maybe a defender or two. So things are in place to be pretty good. And the second line center is probably a concern. I'm assuming that it's not a concern, and that maybe that's not the right word with Bruins and Sweeney.
Well, I'll tell you what, as long as they don't have a tandem of like a John Blue and a Marco Barron to start the season, then they should be okay. I trust in Sweeney he's delivered at the trade deadline. When you make the right choice, it doesn't always work. Guys get hurt, guys get dinged up, stuff like that. But he's done a good job at the trade.
You mentioned they signed Riley.
Yeah,
that's a free agent signing, and so this is, and he's going to have a full year here, a full off season. So that's we forget that. I got the 5 names here right in front of me of the guys they signed when hell broke loose a couple days ago, but. That was a really good addition. I don't think he was outstanding per se at the end, but again, another guy, a full year, working with the defense, moving the puck. They work with him. There's a lot to like about this team, but I I hate to say this because I do. I liked this team a lot, and then I sort of didn't, and then I sort of like this team again. And but I do have there are a couple question marks.
Well, if anybody can find a crack in a glass, it's me. So we'll stay tuned for that, guys. I know we don't talk baseball here, but I just wanted to throw out thoughts and prayers to Tito, who had to back away from the Indians due to health concerns just recently. So hopefully, whatever he's dealing with, God knows he's dealt with a bunch. Hopefully, he's better soon, and I'd like to see him in the Red Sox booth, to be honest with you. But that's a story for another day, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, joining me, unless I cut myself in half. Stay tuned. I think there's stuff that's going to be going on the rest of the summer. Billy, you enjoy the 500-pound fat guys and what's a Z route or an X route or I don't know any of that stuff. Just give me the biggest fat guys up front and we're good to go. Anyway, boys, we'll talk again soon. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kevin with BSD. He's Mike Loftus and Bill Burt, and we'll be talking to you soon. Take care.
See you guys. Enjoy August.
Yeah.
When September ends, like my father's come to pass, 7 years has gone so fast. Wake me up when September ends. Here comes the rain again, falling from the stars, drenched in my pain again, becoming who we are. As my memory rests, but never forgets what I lost. Wake me up when September ends. Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never